You can't play Superman unless the circumference of your neck at least goes out to your ears at the base of the trunk.
Hello and good morning.
Good morning, BBs. It's too early.
It sure is.
Welcome to the first, best, and only morning show in existence. I'm Anthony Carboni.
And I'm Saige Ryan. What?
Ba, 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 ba.
Anthony got so excited he shaved his beard.
Ba, ba, ba. Ba, 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 ba. Whoop.
Good morning. Are you awake yet?
It's
You are now.
Superman Day, babies. Listen, did I this morning on Superman Day accidentally shave a chunk of my beard off before I realized I didn't have a guard on my clippers? Did I do that? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Was it such a large chunk that the rest of the beard had to go? Yes.
Yes, it was.
Shut up. It's Superman Day. None of this matters.
Nothing matters. It's Superman Day,
It's
everybody.
Superman Day. And you know how much, listen, obviously I am a huge Superman fan. We know this about me.
Yes.
I love Superman so much. You know who, the only person who loves Superman more than me?
It's not me.
Saige Ryan.
It's not me.
The biggest Superman fan. When I said they did it, Saige, they did it. They found him.
You know, I think this is actually...
Wrapped in the blanket from his home planet.
Yeah.
In a spaceship.
Uh-huh.
In Kansas.
Yeah.
They found him. Saige said, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just sent me a TikTok.
Yeah. I'll have you know, I sent you the casting news.
That's true. You did send me the casting news.
I knew how big of a day it would be for Anthony.
It's a very big day. We are going to talk a lot about Superman.
And I do want to clarify, I don't hate Superman. I don't think Superman is good, but I always want Superman to be good.
Yeah, here's what's up. I think you're first of all,
Excuse me.
First of all, listen. Have you no respect? We're doing a show. You need to be like me and forget to bring your phone when you leave the house.
Yeah.
Show some respect for the show. Shave off half your beard and forget your phone.
Respectfully.
That's show rules. Look.
Anyways.
I think your opinion on Superman is very much, and we'll dig down deeper into this later in the show, but I think your opinion on Superman is very much the majority of particularly the younger population's idea of Superman, which is, hey, this guy's pretty boring.
I find Superman a little boring. I don't know. And it's not that I want a grittier superhero. I'm not a gritty superhero person anymore.
But that's what they always hear. That's what they always hear.
They're like, oh, you want grittier then? And I'm like, no, I just kind of want less of a like, well, I can do anything and almost nothing can hurt me.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
Yeah.
I can do anything better.
It's not my type. Thank you. Elise said milk toast just isn't my flavor.
Well, and we'll get into this later in the show.
We'll come back to it.
Because we've got a lot of Superman to talk about, but we've got another hero to talk about. We're going to talk about your hero.
My personal hero?
Your personal hero who is making her first appearance on the big screen next month.
Oh, okay.
Because you put a story in here, and before we get into this, the bigger part of this story,
I
want to talk about kind of the funsy thing about this, which is Airbnb is offering Barbie's Malibu Dream House as a place you can stay for just 2 nights here in California. Here literally in Malibu, they built the Malibu Dream House. They took a house and completely did it up to look like the Barbie house. The story behind this is they're doing it on the first 2 nights that Barbie is in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is the way they're marketing it is Barbie has to go to her premiere and Ken is at the house alone, and so he's just renting the house out. Because he's got nothing to do during Barbie's premiere.
I love that. Now, this property was previously listed as like a Barbie dream house, but it was designed after the more like classic Barbie dream house. So previously, like this property existed and was already kind of designed to look like a Barbie dream house and was like marketed based on that.
Yeah.
But only now, I mean, this is the updated version of it. It was redesigned to look like the Barbie dream house specifically from the movie.
But the other thing you'll notice in that picture, Saige, is while Barbie's out, Ken has done a lot of cowboy-themed stuff to the house.
I do see that.
And the idea is that Ken has really just cowboyed up the house and left it open for you. And the idea is only 4 people are going to get to stay at the house. They've done things like this before, like when they Airbnb'd the last Blockbuster.
Right.
They do a lot of this stuff where it's marketing stuff. They put it up for rent at like 10 a.m. on a specific day. I think it's the 17th is when this one goes up. You enter a raffle and 4 people get to stay at the Barbie dream house.
Now, here's my take. I'd like it a lot better if they didn't do the Ken bit. I think the Ken bit is funny story-wise.
Yes.
But for actually staying in it, I'm like, you're kind of putting a hat on the hat. Literally, there's a lot of hats in there.
Particularly on the walls. You're putting a hat on a hat. You're putting those hats on the walls.
I don't really like it. I don't know. Like, if you could always stay at the Barbie dream house and that was a normal place you could stay, but then on this occasion, it's like Ken's takeover, sure. But I didn't get the Barbie dream house
What makes this night different than all other nights?
Give me the Barbie dream house first.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I like the storytelling. I think it's fine. I think there's definitely enough Barbie in that house.
Never enough Barbie. My favorite response to this, though, is everybody on Twitter just replying, Oppenheimer has a chance to do something incredibly funny here.
Yes.
They're not going to. God, I wish, hey.
You wish that the crew of Oppenheimer would blow up the Barbie dream house in Malibu?
I know. I wish the marketing team for Oppenheimer had a sense of humor.
Yeah. Because they can't. They're not allowed.
I know, but think about it. Okay, so picture.
You can't. They cannot.
Okay, but think Doom Guy and Isabel, right?
Sure.
Think about how much fun we had with Doom Guy and Isabel. For those who don't remember, Isabel from Animal Crossing.
But you remember, Doom was allowed to do this.
Yes. That's true.
Animal Crossing was not.
Wasn't leaning in at the time. Nintendo eventually caught on, but because Doom and Animal Crossing were coming out on the same day, there was all of this like fun fan stuff of Doom Guy and Isabel being friends or lovers.
Yeah, and Doom and Bethesda were both like tweeting at Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Like congratulations, bestie, and stuff like that. But that's because Doom is the more over the top and irreverent of the properties.
But Nintendo did eventually lean back.
Nintendo did eventually do a little tweet back, and let me tell you something. That was 2 years worth of meetings with Nintendo of Japan before they were able to do that.
Yeah.
Before they even understood it. But listen, the Oppenheimer crew should at least go by and tag that house.
That's not what I'm thinking.
If you're not gonna blow it up,
not what I'm thinking.
Listen, if you're not gonna blow it up, you should at least vandalize that house. I bet Matt Damon's gonna drive by and try to egg that house.
That's a joke. We're not suggesting vandalism.
If we do suggest vandalism to the crew of Oppenheimer and they do it, number one, we have way more pull in Hollywood than I thought we did. And number two, rise, my minions.
Yeah.
Vandalize it all.
Well, here's the thing. While we're talking about
Demi Bella.
this, when we're like, hey, vandalize something, it's not the Barbie dream house.
No.
It's not even the most evil Airbnb.
No.
Airbnb.
Every Airbnb is the most evil Airbnb. Airbnb, okay. It's for those who aren't up on everything that Airbnb is about. Airbnb started as a very good idea.
Yeah.
Hotels are expensive. If you've got an extra couch, an extra room, whatever, let people stay in that room.
Yeah,
and then
people
you can
renting out guest houses, extra bedrooms.
I mean, literally, when it first opened up, my friends in New York were like renting out a couch for like $20 a night. You could do that on Airbnb.
There are couch surf websites now that are like have come up to take that place, but Airbnb was about inexpensive travel
Yeah.
and community-based travel.
It was essentially a Web 2.0 centralization of something called couchsurfing.com, which I think still exists.
Yeah, it does.
Which is basically like, hey, I've got a couch. If you need to come into town,
If you got $20,
you can hang, maybe even for free. Couchsurfing.com.
Couchsurfing is free a lot of the time. Yeah.
Couchsurfing.com was just like, yeah, people can stay here. I've got the room. And Airbnb was a centralization and a Web 2.0 of that made it easier, that added a little bit of verification to it, all that stuff. But over time, Airbnb has turned into people buying second properties and renting them, and then management companies that are buying up individual residences in major cities where housing inventory is already very low and very overpriced. And they're basically squeezing the market by making these rental homes. And it took so long for Airbnb to be regulated at all, to be taxed at all. And even still, there's really not a lot of regulation that keeps a company from owning a lot of Airbnb properties. LA has way too many individual residential homes.
And this isn't just a problem with Airbnb in Los Angeles, but everywhere. Like these giant management companies that own there's one corporation in Los Angeles that owns 35% of all apartments here or something like that. It's wild. There's only 3 management companies that own most of the apartment buildings here, which means if you don't get approved for one, good luck, choke, and I hope you die, according to these management companies. So the United States in general does not regulate how much property people can own because they don't care.
Yeah. But so this has turned into a thing where Airbnb used to be the cheap, easy, friendly alternative to a hotel. And now in a lot of cases, Airbnb is more expensive than a hotel. Airbnb has a lot more rules than a hotel.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You can stay in an Airbnb that's $20 less than a hotel. Nobody's going to clean that room for you. You have to clean it.
And you're still paying a cleaning fee.
And you pay a cleaning fee on top of that $20. And if you don't deep scrub that person's bathtub, they leave you a bad review. The last time I stayed at an Airbnb, it had a binder so thick of house rules and things I had to clean. And I was like, I'm not even going in there.
Yeah.
I'm not even using that.
Yeah, they're exorbitantly more expensive now. And if you've been doing something like Uber or Lyft in the last year, you recognize a very similar pattern, right? It was affected by the pandemic in a lot of ways in revenue. A lot of people raised prices on it. A lot of people couldn't afford it because, at some point, a lot of these people thought that being a landlord was okay to be their job. And I don't feel bad for the people who bought up these rental properties.
No.
And then a pandemic hit and no one was staying in their rental properties.
Yeah.
Being a landlord was never a job.
That was the risk that you took on by deciding your income was going to be attached to the travel and real estate market. You signed up for that. Do you know what would have kept your income steady and stable during that time? Renting that home to a tenant or a family that lives locally, or just sell that fucking home.
Hey, yeah.
A lot of people that own Airbnb properties and own rental properties or vacation properties find out a couple years into it that they are extremely over leveraged, that they made a bad investment, that they are not going to be making money off of this property for years. They're actually because of the costs, and then it becomes something where not just the tenant living hand to mouth.
Yeah.
The landlord is now living hand to mouth. If you can't pay your rent, all of a sudden your landlord, who's not in much better state than you, can't pay their rent. And I say, don't become a landlord if you can't take on that financial responsibility, and don't become a landlord at all.
Full stop.
Period.
Not the Lysander said, I only use Airbnbs if we have a huge group that wants to be together in the same place, haven't had any trouble. Here's the thing. The idea of using an Airbnb is not a bad idea.
No, it's a great idea.
I've rented tons of Airbnbs. I've done the exact same thing. Cabins when we're going on snowboarding trips, events where everybody wants to share something, as opposed to having to get, 6 hotel rooms. That doesn't make any sense, and it's not financially feasible.
No, I think that becomes what Airbnb is good at. If big family vacations or big group vacations, things like that. But what we can all agree on is the same thing. I mean, this is what's happening. You bring up Uber and Lyft and things like that. Uber and Lyft are now squeezing more and more money out of their drivers because they pushed everybody out of the market so they could be the market leader without figuring out whether it was worth it to be the market leader.
And now they cost just as much as taxis.
if not more, in
Yep.
some cities, and Airbnb is making less and less money.
Yeah.
This is sort of what happened. This is why, you know, a lot of this tech stuff, a lot of this monopoly stuff is bad for everyone. It's bad for the consumer for a very, very, very long time, but then it can become extremely bad for the person that owns the monopoly as well, to which we say, get fucked, somebody who actively went for a monopoly. That's what you get, but don't take us down along the way.
Yep.
But there was a very interesting thread on Twitter, which is why we're bringing up all this Airbnb stuff.
Yeah.
By Nick Gurley, who has he's got a big real estate channel on YouTube. He's a real estate investor, so we don't like Nick, but we do like this thread that Nick posted, saying the Airbnb collapse is real. Revenues are down nearly 50% in cities like Phoenix and Austin. Watch out for a wave of forced selling from Airbnb owners later this year in areas hit hardest by the revenue collapse, to which I say, good.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Your extra property you don't live in.
Oh, no. You're going to have to put that property back out into the market.
Oh, no.
And that's going to, putting all those properties out at the same time is going to drive down market value of homes, which is unnaturally overinflated anyway.
Do.
Oh no. Now, here's the problem. Airbnb, all of these management companies or individual owners, a lot of these Airbnbs that are going to sell off these properties are going to be people that own one or two properties. It's not going to be these large management companies.
Yeah.
Large management companies, when something like this happens, they hunker down and they buy more real estate.
Absolutely. It's going to get cheap and people are going to buy. But here's the thing. When this has happened before, and it's happened plenty of times before, yes, a lot of these companies did benefit from it, but so did a lot of people.
Right. But more people could benefit is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Which is, the issue is this. When all of these properties go up, you've got people, somebody brought up BlackRock earlier, and even below BlackRock, you've got here in LA, you've got people like Graystar, like Simons, these two or three companies, like Saige was saying, that own 40% of all rentals, 40 to 50%. When you go in to rent an apartment in Los Angeles, I think we've talked about this before, you sit down, and if it's in a large building, sometimes if it's even in a small building, the person behind the desk goes, boop, boop, boop. Right now, if you sign right now, the rent on this one-bedroom apartment is $2,173 a month. If you come back later today, that could go up or down, but it's been trending up and it changes every minute because all of these computers are interconnected and then connected to data on the real estate market. And because it's just like these large firms that run the stock market, they are manipulating the entire housing market.
Yes.
So when these individual Airbnbs go up for sale, who's going to buy them? A few will hopefully, a percentage of them will hopefully go to people who actually need homes, but a large number of those are going to go right back to even larger management companies because we are not regulating who can buy residential real estate.
Correct. When we look at these single family homes, there's no kind of price capping on these things. There's nothing, we don't have large enough initiatives to create programs for supported housing. There's also not enough education for people to know that they could get their hands on it. Most people don't know what an FHA loan is or that there is something feasible. Everybody thinks that they have to have 20% to put down on a house. Everybody thinks that they have to have a certain credit score that they don't have to have. There's a lot of things that they don't want you to know about it so that companies like Equity Rental, Brookfield Corp, Starwood Capital can continue to buy all of the properties that you can't get to.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you bring up these programs, above and beyond that, a lot of larger cities that care about this sort of stuff, like LA doesn't just have FHA loans and things like that. LA has specific residences, like tiny little neighborhoods or buildings that they build that they go, these homes are just for lower income first-time homeowners.
And there is not enough.
Yeah, there's not enough, but they build like, I think this year there's something like 40 units. They're building 40 units, condos basically, and then smaller homes more on the outskirts of the city in other parts of LA County. But there are 40 homes. You apply for it. You tell them, hey, here's how much money I make. Here's all my financial stuff. Here's, am I single? Do I have a family?
Yeah.
What do I do for a living? And they try to give out all of these homes within a year and then build another 40 units. Now, 40 units when you're in a city like Los Angeles.
5 million people. It's also very interesting, and I talk about this a lot on the internet, which is we have enough housing for every single person in America to have a house. There is enough structures built. We actually don't need to build more houses. And that covers the homeless population. That covers just low-income people that are, living in, kind of month-to-month rentals,
There
et
are
cetera.
so many empty units in my building right now because these companies are like, if we start renting them cheaper, then we have to start renting everything cheaper.
Right.
And we're not going to bring down the value of the home market.
So
like I said, they can sit and hunker down and go, we'll lose the money right now.
Right. So I have a hard time when there's all these initiatives that are like, build more houses. And I'm like, we have enough houses. Devoni Macaroni.
It's enough slices.
It's enough slices. Devoni Macaroni said, this is a huge issue in Portland. And it seems like the state cares more about the landlord's rights and well-being than they do about the renters. They do. A roof over your head is a human right. People shouldn't be profiting off of it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to highlight that message because I couldn't agree more. I'm somebody who believes in the abolishment of private property, which is a sentence that scares a lot of people. Because they're like, oh no, my things, I love my things. That's not what private property is.
You can own your things.
Including your house.
Yeah.
Private property is exclusively things that you only own for profit. If you own an apartment building, that is private property. The apartment you live in is personal property.
Yeah. Nord the Barbarian brings up vacancy taxes, which are a huge thing. So a company that owns a certain number of units or a certain number of homes in a market where a lot of people are looking to rent, can't just hunker down and sit and go, hey, we don't want the value of apartments to go down, so we're just not going to rent these 20 units in this 60-unit building. We'll go at 2/3 capacity for as long as we have to, and just wait for the economy to jump back. And if it doesn't, we'll just take a write-off on our taxes for the next 2 years because we have so many properties in other areas that are still profitable. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it is leveraged against the individual. It is leveraged against the people that just, look, I don't even live, I wouldn't even say I don't live in a big place. I'd say I live in a particularly tiny place. I like having just a particularly tiny place. What I don't like is paying an insane overvalue for that particularly tiny place. And we need these things to just become more realistic. Or if the crew of Oppenheimer is listening, we need to get to the Barbie dream house. We need to get to the Barbie dream house. I need you posted on all 4 corners, all right? We are going to take back Malibu. We are going, every single one of those cowboy hats, those are ours now. We own those cowboy hats.
That's personal property.
That's right. That's right. And that's also squatters' rights. If Ken and Barbie are away and we stay there for 11 days, we own it.
That's not exactly how it works.
That's 100% true. Look it up. Squatters' rights. If you hide in the Natural History Museum for 11 nights and they don't catch you, you own the museum.
There's a movie about that with Robin Williams.
There's 2 movies about it.
I don't think they both have Robin Williams,
There's 2 movies, a series, and a book that's unrelated. Completely different story.
Really?
Yeah, because if you're of a certain age, you think of the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, and then you think of Night of the Museum.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Mixed Up Files. Then I think of Night of the Museum. Even though the first
Night of the Museum.
Even though the first Night of the Museum is a brilliant film. That's a brilliant film. I'm sorry, it just is. That's a Tom Lennon, Ben Garant script. They don't miss. They don't fucking miss. Ben Stiller doesn't fucking miss. Sorry.
Anyways, hey everybody. Tax the rich, eat the landlords.
Also,
know your rights, abolish private property.
Hey, thanks for giving that gift sub to Oppenheimer movie. If y'all are listening, meet me in Malibu. Meet me in Montauk.
Let's continue because we're not done ranting about the effects of capitalism quite yet.
Not just for this episode. We're never done.
We're never going to be done. But we're also not done for today because one of the other big things that everybody's talking about right now is what, Anthony?
I'm so sorry. I've just been informed that there are 4 Night at the Museum movies.
And you thought that was necessary to say
I'm
out loud?
I'm so sorry. Did you know there were 4?
No.
How did they make 4? That means there are 2 that came out that we simply did not.
I know, they're almost to their fifth day, squatters' rights.
If they make 5 movies in the Natural History Museum, they own it. And then Ben Stiller owns that dinosaur.
Okay, so anyways.
How'd they make 4?
I'm going to try again. And I think I need you to let me get through it.
No, I'm sorry.
Serious.
I'm very serious too. I just can't believe that they did 4. I just can't. I don't know when they did them.
Okay.
That's wild.
Moving on?
Sure.
Okay. One of the other things that everybody has been talking about, you've probably been seeing a lot on Twitter about, is the Shein influencer trip. Now, let's talk about it. Shein, of course, is a massive fast fashion website. It is based and produces a lot of their clothing in China. And I want to start off with a preface because a lot of people have misunderstandings about a few things. And there's a few things that you should know before you have any commentary on fast fashion.
I'm wearing pants from Shein right now. It happens.
It's not what I was going to say.
No, but
yes.
but I think a point that I want to make is like, hey, if you need affordable clothes, do the best you can. But if you every once in a while, if you need to dip, or a lot of the time, because of your finances, need to dip into that fast fashion pool, that's okay. We're not trying to make you feel like a terrible person if you need to do this every once in a while. You should be aware of your choices. And you should know what you're getting into when you make those choices. But
well, there's a few things about that.
Yeah.
One, there's a larger conversation about plus size access to clothing because a lot of people will say just thrift instead, and that's very difficult to do for people who are not a size small or medium, which is the thing that's most easy to find at a thrift store.
Yes.
Trying to find things that you can wear for work, you need things for a professional setting, you need something specific. You can't always find that in a thrifted setting. So we aren't trying to pass that burden on to an individual consumer that's in a position where they need to do so. In addition to that, fast fashion is not actually about it's about the way the clothing is produced. The conversation we have to be having is about overconsumption. So don't say, well, I have $500 to spend it on clothing. Instead of getting a few pieces of nice clothing that were made by people who were paid fairly, I'm going to get 1 million pieces of clothing from Shein. If you only have a little bit of money and you need clothing, there's a big difference between I have this money and I chose to get way too much clothing instead. Overconsumption is the problem.
If you have $50 and you're like, I need a week's worth of work clothes, that's a decision.
Yes.
If you have a lot of money, because this is the other thing about fast fashion that we're going to get into, is this shit do fall apart.
So the reason it's actually called fast fashion is actually about the timeline that it takes to produce a garment. Anything that takes less than 6 months typically to produce falls into the category of fast fashion. A lot of people don't actually know what like the word means, and that's about the time from design to going into production so that they can keep up with trends before they go away. But that usually doesn't mean that they have the time to pay attention to detail and quality, and it means usually overworking workers, underpaying workers. So the other thing that I did want to say before we get into this though is there's a lot of stigma that comes with it on accident attached to China that can very quickly become just racism. So not all garments that are produced in China are produced poorly or underpaid or any of those things. We have sweatshops in Los Angeles, California.
That's right. A lot of the clothes, most of the reason why the racism comes into this is a lot of the things that we buy, that we purchase, are made in China now, or are made in Asia now, and so there's a lot of stuff that's wrapped up in perceived loss of jobs, which isn't true. I mean, it is true, but it's not for the reasons you think.
Nope.
And then also perceived lack of quality because America better, our stuff better.
Which is just propaganda, which is just racism. There is something to be said about in the late 90s, there was a large conversation about the way that stuff was being produced in China in particular, and about the rates of pay and the way that things were being produced there. In around 2001, China completely revamped all of their labor regulations, and most of their labor regulations are actually stronger than a lot of places in the US. So with that in mind, there's a lot of things that are made in China that are quality. There's a lot of things that are made in China from people that were paid fairly and are able to survive a regular living. And that's a misconception about China being some kind of third world country and America being the best. But also there's a lot of machinery that actually is specific to China. There's a lot of garments and the kinds of things that can only be made there because they're further along in their machinery technology for producing all kinds of things well beyond clothing.
And that has to do with, and a lot of this stuff has to do with, if you look back far enough, which a lot of people aren't doing these days, this is a situation that we and the rest of the world created for ourselves by outsourcing, by taking advantage of the fact that when we started producing products in other countries, we were doing it because of the difference in workers' regulations and rights, and because of the difference in the value of our currency.
Yes.
So by offloading all of this stuff, we did this to ourselves. And now a lot of people are angry about it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't realize that they were screwing themselves over.
Yes.
And so now they want to be angry about a specific country. Now, is there a lot of stuff going on in China that is not cool? Yeah. But we need to be realistic about what's going on.
Yeah, like look around at home first, maybe.
Yeah.
But the best way to know if something is fast fashion is to remember that clothing is not made by machines. No clothing is made by machines. When people are like, oh, it's handmade, the stitches on your garments are always done by somebody. There aren't machines that stitch it for you. There are parts that are done by machines, but human hands have always touched a garment before it comes to you. So when
everything. When people talk about like, oh, computers and cars and all this stuff, or phones, it's like, no, a lot of those parts, a lot of those things are made by hand. Just because you can't do it or a lot of people can't do it, these people are specifically trained. These factory workers are specifically trained to put together a certain number of these delicate things every day. So when you're saying, oh, we send it to a factory, in go raw material, out come clothing.
No, people. Shayna's trying said, I wouldn't put it past the U.S. to have sweatshops. Unfortunately, no, we literally do.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real thing. And we're actively and aggressively rolling back child labor regulations in the United States. So let's take a look. We're just going to the Shein website right now.
As the economy gets worse, you're going to hear more and more of that of let my kids work to save my family.
So taking a look at the Shein website right now, a great example is that shirt is $3.75. There is no feasible way that someone can.
It's down from $5.99.
From $5.99. There is literally no reality in which a person who worked on that garment could be paid fairly to make a garment that sells for $3.75. A lot of people will argue, oh, it's about volume and all of these things, and that's why they're able to sell it so cheap because they can sell so many. Who do you think is making so many? Do you think that it becomes easier for those people because they made so many?
No.
There is no reality in which something is priced that way and paid out to workers fairly. Ever. It's impossible.
We're talking about like full length evening dresses.
Yeah.
For that red dress is $7. $7. And you'll see that designers are starting to put their names on Shein. They're doing Shein collabs because Shein is getting so huge. Now, this is where things start to get interesting with Shein. Shein is getting close to an IPO, an initial public offering. Shein wants to go on the stock market. Shein wants to be like all the other gigantic corporations in the world and have part of their value just being in their existence, right? Because once you're on the stock market and your stock's going up, all of a sudden you are making money just for existing as a business. And that's what they want.
They want it so bad. Now, they said, we can't just be profiting off of people's bleeding hands forever.
No, we need to profit off of their bleeding finances as well. So this is why we're bringing up sort of what's going on with Shein and the perception of Shein is because Shein does not have a great reputation. Shein does have factories that they own and offices that they own they own directly that have been inspected that people go, this is on the up and up. Shein has also been found to be doing a lot of business with a lot of third-party companies, third-party factories, smaller and smaller factories, and they don't oversee those factories. And those factories have been getting hit a lot with labor violations. It's essentially Shein saying, this is how we run our factory. And then in the back, in a secret hidden room, they got a bunch of people doing whatever. And they say, that's not our business. We simply write a check. And Shein has been getting a lot of flack for this. Shein has also been getting a lot of flack for the materials. People have been doing material composition checks on their clothing, and they're finding that there's stuff in their clothing that has been found to not be healthy, and stuff in their clothing that's like, hey, you're not supposed to be selling this in this country because that's illegal. And they're like, oh, we didn't know.
Oopsie.
Okay, we'll take it out. It came from a third-party factory. I don't know.
And these things do fall apart, and these things are of poor quality because they cannot produce at that rate and keep up with quality. Part of adjusting to a world of slower fashion is being willing to be patient with fashion that Shein is not. There are literally I wish I could know how many items are on this. Anything you could search for, there's 100 different variations of it on Shein. Anything you could ever search for. Anything you ever want a shirt to say pre-exists on Shein. And that's bad. With how quickly you can get it, that's very concerning because that means there's so much overproduction. So in order to do so, in order to try and repair their reputation, which was damaged after a bunch of TikTokers came out and were doing Shein hauls, and then a bunch of other TikTokers came out and were like, hey, let's talk about why this is bad. They're really trying to get back in the favor of the content creators and the influencers. They want to go back to the days of content creators doing massive $500, $1,000 Shein hauls where they're getting 100 items.
Stop thinking about the reality of these clothes and just go back to thinking about how neat it is to get a little Prezi in the mail.
So they hired a group of influencers to come to one of their factories and do a tour of it and create content while they were there. Now, lots of companies do this. Influencer trips are a completely normal thing and not an inherently bad thing. If everyone is honest and realistic about what is happening, we always know an influencer trip is about getting into good favor with the influencers. It's also in the spreadsheet. So.
Oh no, I was grabbing something else.
A bunch of influencers posted videos touring a Shein factory and saying things about how it's not the way that everybody thinks. It's totally fine. And then naturally, the flack immediately went to these content creators. And I want to say, I don't think that we should, first and foremost, blame the content creators.
Right.
There is fault involved in these people who posted these things for not having enough critical thought to go against this.
Correct.
But they also did something that was very strategic and specific. They specifically targeted a few marginalized creators that are not offered most frequently the money that they were offered in these deals or the access. There is a massive amount of racism in content creation. There is a massive amount of bringing, your favorite 12 white girls on this makeup company influencer trip. And they specifically targeted marginalized creators and offered them an amount of money that we do not know that is probably difficult to turn down in that position and promises and lies.
Well, not just an amount of money, right? But a trip, like when you're talking about marginalized creators and you're talking about people who don't have a lot of income, most people, right? Oh, I've never been there. I've never gone anywhere. I've never been to China. I would love to go to China. How else will I ever go to China? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of it goes back to the same thing we said in the beginning. Mm-hmm. If you have a little bit of money and you can make the better decision, make the better decision. Everybody draws their own personal line. Mm-hmm. If you need the money, and Shein comes into your inbox and says, this is a lot of money.
Money, a trip to China, and it's an opportunity. Every time that you do a collaboration with a sizable brand is an opportunity that other companies will notice you and continue to give you money, and you get to pay your rent maybe next month too. That's something that people have to factor in. Yeah. So
now some of these creators were pretty big though. Some of these creators I imagine have the numbers where some of the stuff, I mean, when you're talking about some people who have like 4 million followers on TikTok.
There's no money on TikTok. 4 million followers means no money. 4 million followers means absolutely fucking no money on TikTok. There are so many people talking specifically about how there's nothing. Like for instance, I get paid fairly well to make a post on Instagram.
Right.
Somebody hit me up yesterday from Temu.
Fuck Temu. That's a whole other episode.
Like yesterday or the day before and said, will you make 4 TikToks for $100? For $100. Now, I don't have a huge TikTok following.
Right.
But I have a large platform elsewhere. So having 4 million, having 10 million followers on TikTok literally translates to no money. because the creator fund, nothing. The creator fund is fucking nothing.
Yeah.
The creator fund is absolutely nothing now. There was a time, 4 for $100. About a terrible company, obviously. To be very clear, Temu is very comparable to
Temu's the new
AliExpress.
Wish.
Yeah, Wish, AliExpress, that kind of thing. So what I do want to say is also looking at this and being like, you have 7 million followers. Literally, you can't pay your rent with 7 million TikTok followers. I promise you. Some people can get the brand deals and have the access to it, but it is not out the gate. It is not inherent, and it isn't easy.
Yeah.
Madeline Pendleton talks about it all the time. She has $4 million on 4 million followers on TikTok.
She has $4 million, and she just can't make any more money.
She has 4 million followers on TikTok and makes $0 from TikTok.
Yeah.
She makes nothing.
From what I understand, most of the money in TikTok comes from like lives and people giving you little rosies and stuff, and that's where like
very little.
That's where if there's money, that's where it is.
But that's also a specific kind of content creator. Not all of these content creators do live content.
So
there's no money in TikTok.
So what we're saying is we don't necessarily blame these creators, though. If you like we're saying, if you are building a brand though, and you are not in financial straits, you do have to look at the sort of things you're taking on as you build your brand.
Yeah.
And the people who did these Shein trips are seeing that.
Yes.
Because the backlash, like you said, against them was pretty instantaneous and huge. A few of them had to pull their videos down.
Yeah.
Because, hey,
accountability.
It's icky. It's icky to go to TikTok or to go to Shein and be like, oh, I'm pretty cool with how Shein went.
So let's talk about what they posted because what are they getting this backlash for, right? So they were invited to go to Guangzhou, China, which I'm probably mispronouncing, and if I am, I apologize. They were sent to one of the Shein factories, and It's Destiny posted, I expected the facility to be so filled with people just slaving away, but I was actually pleasantly surprised that most of these things were robotic. Honestly, it was just everyone working like normal, like chill, sitting down. They weren't even sweating.
Now, a sweatshop doesn't mean the people are actually sweating. That's not what it means. A sweatshop means that it's shorthand.
Yes.
It's a term that means they are overworked. They are getting health problems. They are doing more than they're supposed to. It doesn't mean that you are necessarily sweating.
So It's Destiny has 4.1 million followers, for example.
Yeah.
And that is one of the most out of touch things I think I've heard someone say in a good while. Sometimes it reminds you.
They seemed like they were just being chill and there were a lot of robots. Now remember, the other thing that we're saying above and beyond this is
it's not made by robots.
Shein's bringing people to their star factory. And not only are they bringing people to their star factory, they're bringing people to their star factory, their best facilities on a day when they know visitors are coming.
Correct.
Hey, everyone, I'm sure we've all worked in a place where they go, hey, everyone, secret shoppers coming in this week.
Yeah.
Corporate's looking at what we're doing this week.
And I'm very confused with a few things. So like this particular one was upsetting to me, this particular post. There was two that people are most upset about, and there were more than two influencers, but there's two that said pretty out of touch, kind of unhinged things. One is, I expected the facility to be filled with people slaving away, yet you said yes to the money and the trip.
Yeah.
You expected to see a sweatshop and what you picture of a sweatshop, and you did say yes to the money and the trip. And maybe you went in going, I'll expose them. Right.
It's just a bunch of babushkas with like the hand cranked sewing machines.
Yeah.
And like the walls are painted that particular Tim Burton gray.
Dripping sweat. Beads of literal sweat. So that is wild. Again, this comes in with that like, well, I expected China to be terrible. And it's like, whoa, okay. There's another statement, though. This is from It's Danny MC, who reflected on her trip by saying, there's a narrative fed to us in the U.S., but I want you to be an independent thinker, get the facts, and see it with your own two eyes.
Whoa.
So Danny currently has just under 300,000 followers.
Hey, if anybody says independent thinker, I immediately go like this.
Immediately, I'm like, ooh, Nazi?
Yeah. You gotta
Nazi?
Listen, just
I'm not
hear
saying
it,
she
just
is.
hear it.
I'm saying when I hear that phrase, I am like.
When I hear that phrase, I go, ooh, you're dug down so far into a narrative.
Yeah.
That you refuse to get out of it.
Yeah, that's when you use your dad's last name.
Yeah.
Not from my mom's side. You know?
I'm an independent thinker.
Most of the people who are independent thinkers think we are lizard people.
I'm an independent thinker, and let me tell you something. I cannot see the curve of the Earth.
Yeah.
I can't see it. I look every day. I go, where is it? Earth round?
Mm-hmm.
Why I walk on flat ground then?
Right.
Think about that, independent thinker. They don't want you to know. Bring a bubble level onto the plane with you. You'll see. You'll see.
This is a video from the influencer trip of them showing them around the factory and taking a look at it, and all of them documenting the process that looks so normal and healthy. Wow, people are just using irons and just look at that, stitching, and so happy to be. They love it.
Yeah, they look super stoked.
Yeah. Look.
And look, a fancy dinner.
Yeah. It's fine. The women yearn for the mines.
A little party. Yeah.
And it's hard because once again, you're targeting things that are like plus size creators that so many fashion brands are not offering deals with, right? So when you target something that's a plus size creator that wants to work in fashion, that wants to be involved in fashion, and then you have this company that sees that and is like, I understand that all of these ethical companies that are ethical in production, but
are
terrible
unethical
in
their
politics,
hiring. Yeah.
but terrible in their politics, are not going to offer you this. Now, we really unethical in the consumption and really unethical in our production, but like, we'll give you money and clothing.
And here's the thing with being somebody who wants to be, you know, a content creator. I hate the word content creator, but
Really?
Yeah, I hate it because content creator came from executives that were trying to quantify and put creative people onto a fucking assembly line. And it was like, you're not creating enough content this week. And it's like, oh, okay. It initially came from sales teams and advertising executives within like large MCNs.
It's not one it's actually the one that I mind the least.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's become the least bad one.
Yeah.
But that's only because we're sliding, right?
Right.
But when you want to become an expert in your field and you want to be taken seriously and you want to get more clients, one of the things that you need are you need examples of you doing this thing.
Yeah.
So if one of these creators who is not getting the offers that they want needs a very well-produced video of them talking about fashion, talking about a brand, talking about these things, showing that they can work with a large corporation.
This could be their ticket. This could be their door.
Listen, I did some not horrible shit, but I made some shitty movies. I did some shitty videos. I hosted some shitty stuff.
Same.
You got to do that.
Everybody's going to shill. You shill at your job every day, I promise.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is now a full-time content creator, I promise you I'm not shilling more than when I was working retail. You know?
Way less.
We're all surviving capitalism, and it is bad for everyone, except for like 3 white dudes up here, you know? And a few down there.
Yeah, you're all probably, like a lot of you are probably sitting at your shilling desks right now.
Yeah.
Just shilling away on a
shilling?
spreadsheet.
I think that's an honest question. Rock4World said, what is shilling? Shilling is like...
Shilling is, number one, has anti-Semitic connotations. We're both Jewish people.
We are.
It comes from like literally doing it for a shekel or a shilling.
Yeah.
It's about like selling yourself out to do things that you wouldn't normally do for a large corporation or a rich person.
I'm an anti-capitalist, and I take money from insert massive corporation here because that is what pays my rent.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like, and the thing is it gets twisted a lot. Like you see a lot of people working and doing things like, people are like, like when I host stuff for Star Wars, people say you're shilling for Star Wars. Yes, I am. But I also like Star Wars. I like the stuff that they do.
Yep.
It's aligned with my interests and they treat me well.
Yes.
So there's not like you're saying a thing you don't believe just to sell something for Disney. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Disney's selling things fine on their own.
Yeah.
But when you hear people say that people are shilling, a lot of times it just means this person has an opinion that I don't like.
Yeah.
Or this person is making a financial decision that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
And they're more well off for it than I am.
Or I think they are.
Or I think they
perceived to
are.
be.
Yeah, I think they are. And so I don't like it because what you're doing in my mind is unethical, and the way I make my money is ethical.
So we're saying it ironically. There's a lot of the back and forth. If there's no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism, some things are still more ethical than others. And then we fall down the line until you figure out how to survive.
You can only say that for so long until you become completely nihilistic and do nothing.
True.
So, so here's the thing about this Shein stuff. They're definitely trying to rehab their image.
And it didn't work.
It did not work. Do you know what it reminded me of? This is the thing that I was looking up earlier. In 2016.
I do remember this.
In 2016, large YouTube channels, travel channels, were being invited to North Korea for fun North Korean vacations.
Yep.
And a lot of large travel channels at the time. This is Fun for Lewis. Fun for Lewis was one of the biggest travel channels at the time.
I remember that guy.
He did daily travel vlogs, the vagabond lifestyle. He and his partner Raya, she was also a pretty big deal.
Whoa, I forgot he existed.
But his whole thing is he would go to places and people were for a little while saying like, hey, Louis, you should mention that this place you're going to is like not great for this reason or is caught up with this political thing. And he was just like, hey, I get that, but also I'm just here to like interact with the people and see what the world is like. And he lived behind that for a very long time because you can do it up to a certain point.
Sure.
Until you make a video that's literally North Korea invited me to surf North Korea. And it was like surfing. They went surfing in North Korea. The man was 33 years old at the time. And his video is like this fun vacation tourism in North Korea.
And I want to be clear, in 2016, we all knew about North Korea.
Yeah. North Korea was a pretty big deal in 2016. Like, I don't know, like it was pretty big. It was and his tweets were things like, did you know that North Korea has amazing water parks?
Ooh.
Hey, have you tried North Korea?
That's wild.
That's
what a time.
sort of, these Shein trips are not as bad as that, but this is what it reminds me of.
It's up there.
It's up there, but
it's pretty up there.
That's what it reminds me of. Now, I had a partner, I think I told you this, humble brag, I had a partner.
Whoa.
But
hair stayed up.
Yeah, hair stayed up. I have hair cut now. Hair's doing what it does again.
Back to side. There
Yeah,
you go.
hair does many things now.
Okay.
I had a partner that was invited to North Korea as a photographer to photograph. They do like this once a year celebration of the great leader and like a big like kind of sporting thing. And she was like, she wasn't paid. She was invited. A bunch of other journalistic photographers were invited. And she said, what do I get to take pictures of? What do I get to see? What do I get to say afterwards?
I say?
Who's running this trip? How do you decide what we're going to see? And what's gonna, all of this stuff. We had a long conversation about it. And she was like, if I really get to see this and take the photos that I want to see and present them the way that I want to present them.
Journalism, not bad.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go. And we were a little worried about safety and stuff, but not really because it was a bunch of journalists who were being invited at the same time to a large PR event. Yeah. And so we were like, they're not going to disappear you.
Right.
Because it's too big an event and there are too many people there. And also, she was the sort of person that like literally had never littered in her life. You know what I mean? Like real straight arrow. And so we were like, okay, go. But it was horrifying.
Yeah.
She was like, immediately you could tell what they were doing. Immediately you could see how they were trying to make themselves look better. They put us in this hotel and they made it look like the hotel was busy, but there were floors that we weren't allowed to get off on because those floors didn't have electricity or running water. We were sent to like all of these different places where like they were sent to a children's school for gifted children. And as they were walking down the hall, they would go into one room and these kids would be playing like these amazing like concertos. And then after they left the room, they would hear the kids stop and reset for the next group of photographers. Wow. Like literally a guided propaganda tour.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. The only message I got from her the whole time of her trip, she sent me an Instagram DM that was honestly saying too much about how she was fine to the point where I was worried.
Yeah.
But she was like, Instagram DM was the only message I could send without them knowing. And if they did see it, I didn't want them
To freak out.
to freak out. It was like a whole thing. So it was really scary. And, and when she came back, she was like, this was after this influencer stuff. When she came back, she was like, no, this is right around the same time, same year. When she came back, she was like, anybody who came back, the guy who came back and made this look like a fun vacation,
Knew exactly what he was doing.
this guy's a fucking nightmare. This guy ignored so many things.
Yeah. Well, everybody, that's been your anti-capitalist ranting for the episode. We are going to talk about Superman.
Let's get away from this and let's talk about a symbol of hope, of truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Because we don't say the American way anymore. They changed that.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. The Man of Steel, Superman. Now we know that Jimothy Gunn has been slaving away in the DC mines, which are different than slaving away at an actual factory.
True.
But they've been working on Superman Legacy. Superman Legacy is the big thing that's going to kick off whatever this new DC whatever is. And man, this thing went fast. Earlier this week, they were like, they're doing screen tests. We've heard they're doing screen tests.
Now, because James Gunn can't shut his goddamn mouth, everybody knew who was in the running for everything. Y'all know, I'm a James Gunn hater. I will be till I die.
Isn't there a certain amount of like his transparency though that you actually enjoy?
No.
None?
No.
Really?
No, I think it's so annoying. Like, here's the thing. He's not being transparent about anything that makes anything better. He's not like, here are the business practices.
Right.
Let me talk to you about what's going on in these meetings. Let me tell you about what pay people are making. It's not that. It's just like a bunch of artists being like, well, we worked really hard on that, and I guess James Gunn just got to say it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I guess
like
we all worked hard and contributed to this thing, but I guess James Gunn just gets to tweet about it.
He does like to say who has come in and auditioned for him in a way that's like really weird.
And as someone who used to be an actor, that's the most horrible thing I can think of, and we're going to touch on that.
We're going to touch on that, but we want to start with
Let's just make
first.
the announcement.
We're putting it down, and we're talking about a congratulations first of all, because this is huge. First of all, congratulations to David Cornswet and Rachel Brosnahan, our new Clark Kent and Lois Lane.
Now, incredible.
Brosnahan. When I heard Brosnahan was out for Lois Lane, I said to myself, that woman's Lois Lane.
That woman has to be Lois Lane. You can't give anyone else Lois Lane.
That woman is Lois Lane. And I understand you got to see a few other people, but that woman is Lois Lane.
She was born to be Lois Lane.
Midge Maisel is just Lois Lane, but Jewish.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. David Cornswet, nice Jewish boy. He's a nice Jewish boy. Superman's Jewish again. We took it back for Siegel and Schuster. It's not a Jesus allegory, you fucks. It's a Moses allegory.
Always was.
It was always meant to be a Moses allegory.
All your favorite superheroes were created by Jews.
Woo!
All your favorite superheroes were a power fantasy of having any kind of power in the world from Jews.
But we don't control the media, so don't say that, you fucks.
No, writing a superhero is not controlling the media.
So we've got David Cornswet and Rachel Brosnahan. Now, Rachel Brosnahan, as we just said, we all know mostly for being Miss Maisel.
Yeah.
That's her huge thing. But she was a huge theater actor beforehand. Lady's got chops.
Yeah.
She's won awards. She's doing it.
A Kodoroku said, make Lois Lane Jewish. Now, I do want to actually say, Rachel Brosnahan is not Jewish.
But in my mind, we now have a Jewish Clark Kent and Lois Lane.
So she can convert.
She's honorary.
I think she can convert, but she does have to take the little classes.
I'll say this. She's mishpucha.
We'll let her in.
She could come to the Seder.
Hey.
If she showed up at the Seder,
absolutely,
I'd let her read from the Haggadah.
Of course.
She could read it. Yeah. If it was Sukkot, I'd let her shake around the lulav and the etrog.
Here's the thing, because I think she would.
She'd know how to do it.
She would.
Because she did the work. She became Jewish. Not every actor does that. So we know her. David Cornswet, you may say, oh, who's David Cornswet? He was in X, which you know has got to be one of Jimmy Gunn's favorite movies.
Sure.
You know he loves that movie, that guy. He was also in The Politician. He's kind of a Netflix darling. He's been in like a few Netflix series, and he's done a lot.
Yeah.
It's led people to sort of say Cornswet doesn't have chops because he's been in some less than great series. But let me tell you something. I know a lot of great actors who have been in the CW mines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know a lot of great actors who have been in the soap opera mines.
Yeah.
You know, you don't always get to, you don't, like we were talking about, you work your way up. And I believe that he's got the chops. I think he's going to do a great job.
And like, look at that. Look at them. Clearly that is Clark Kent.
The other thing?
Clearly that is Lois Lane.
The other thing?
Yes.
6'2", 5'3".
Whoa.
Perfect.
Rachel Brosnahan and I are the same height.
Yeah, you're kind of a little Brosnahan.
I mean, I'm very tall.
You're a bit of a Brosnahan.
No, I'm very tall. I'm not little like that.
So that's gonna be good. People are already, well, we'll get into what people are saying about it. We want to talk about some of these other actors who were up for it first. First of all, the screen test process, I want to say, was more public than it should have been. Way more public than it should have been.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So we talked about it on Monday a little bit. We shared, who was in the running for it because James Gunn shared who was in the running for it. And when you share something like that, you put these actors in a very strange public position that is usually a position they get to be in privately, which is, am I going to get the job? Imagine, if you will, you personally at home are interviewing for a job at any kind of company, and they tweet that you came in for an interview?
Yeah, but they decided you just weren't right for it. They tweet to millions of people
how you answered some of their interview questions?
They put on the front page of the newspaper, yeah, this guy was okay, but he didn't get the job.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Okay.
That's pretty wild.
So one of the people who was in the running was Nicholas Hoult. I love Nicholas Hoult.
The Beast.
Big fan of Nicholas Hoult. Fantastic actor.
Yeah.
So
Renfield.
Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies. That was a great little movie.
I'm a Warm Bodies stan.
I like Warm Bodies.
I'm a real big Warm Bodies stan. So what happens is when you put this on blast, you get tweets like this. Nicholas Hoult has now lost out on playing both Batman and Superman. There's a chance he could still be on the short list to play Lex Luthor.
Hey, the guy probably already has enough of a complex about the auditions he didn't get.
We all do.
Everybody has like, oh, I went in for the dream job and I didn't get it.
Sure. Here's another one from Film Updates, a huge Twitter account. This has 10 million views. Nicholas Hoult has lost out on roles of both Batman and Superman. Okay?
You gotta
6.5 million. Look
gotta
at
not
this.
do this to people.
Okay? And then you get fans in here saying things like this. Okay? This has 5,000 likes.
Nicholas Hoult is a stronger man than me because if I missed out on Batman, Top Gun, Mission Impossible, and Superman, I'd kill myself.
Hey, guys.
Hey, dude.
Hey, do you know that celebrities can go on Twitter?
Do you know Nicholas Hoult can read?
He's not Leah Michelle.
He's not Leah. He can read things that you say. He doesn't have to have it read to him. That's not cool. That's not cool. Now, a couple of these tweets did touch on something that has been known from the beginning, which he's also on the short list to play Lex Luthor.
Which he'd be a great Lex Luthor.
He'd be great. He'd be wonderful.
But like, this is all just because James Gunn was like, you got to know who's auditioning to play Superman. We don't do that. That's not part of this process.
Now, is this one of the ones that Jimmy Gunn said the whole thing first, or did reporters dig it up and then Jimmy Gunn confirmed? Either way, he shouldn't have done it.
He's the one in the position of power there.
Yeah, no, either way, he shouldn't have done it. I just want to get the order of events if we know it.
Man,
but
I don't know.
The other actor for Clark Kent was Tom Brittney, who I am not aware of either. I'm not aware of a lot of people. I'm old.
Here,
I'm 30 or 40 years old, and I don't know everybody.
Yeah. Strong jawline.
Strong jawline. He was in. He seems to be the one that was like the least known for the part. He's on a show called Grant Chester, Make Me Famous. He was on Unreal, which I really liked the first season of. But he was. I think he was more of the long shot. The other one for Lois Lane, we had Phoebe Dyer, who was a Bridgerton.
Yeah.
She was a Bridgerton.
Yeah.
And then we had Emma Mackey, who was in Sex Ed.
Yeah.
A lot of Netflix kids getting pulled for these. The reactions have been...
Sorry.
The reactions have been pretty okay for the most part. As much as people have been calling out Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
The reaction's been pretty all right. Although there are a lot of people... There are a lot of people that are doing the thing, Saige.
There's always a lot of people who are doing the thing.
There are a lot of people that are nitpicking. There are a lot of fans that have a lot of problems. And in the sort of spirit of making sure everyone is heard, we have invited one of them to join us today.
We've invited a Superman fan. Anthony is unique to any superhero fandom in that
I'm malleable, man. I'm
having
flexible.
a good time.
I'm having a good time, and I sort of want to see I want to see the takes on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like a new take on things.
So we're going to take a quick BRB while we bring in to continue the conversation about Superman. We want to hear your thoughts on it, obviously. We want to give our thoughts on it, but we're going to bring in another kind of like source of opinion because Anthony and I agree on most things.
Yeah.
All right.
And also, I got to go feed the meter.
We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Anthony has stepped out because the set's a little small to bring 3 people in. I return with Barry Charles. Barry, thank you for coming on to talk about Superman with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here talking about my absolute favorite superhero in the world, Superman.
Yeah, it's a big day for Superman fans. So, you know, we've been talking a lot on our opinions on Superman today and about the casting. What has the process been leading up? Okay. Are you all right?
Listen, we had a Superman.
We did, yeah. We've had a few Supermans.
We had a Superman, and not only did we have a Superman, we had a director with a vision.
Okay.
We had a plan for where the character was going, and it was just thrown away.
But as a Superman fan, I'm sure you're excited about more Superman content, right? And kind of moving on to the next generation of Superman?
No.
No?
I mean, I'd like to be, but listen, okay. First of all, restore the Snyderverse. I think we can all agree on that. I think we can just start right there.
I don't think we should assume that everyone agrees on Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's actually pretty divisive within the fandom.
I'll tell you this, Saige. I'll tell you this. I don't understand. I heard that they cast a new Superman.
They did.
I heard it.
Yes.
And then you know what, Saige?
Yes. What?
You know what?
No.
I looked at a picture of this guy.
Uh-huh.
And I said to myself, Saige,
Don't touch my buttons.
That's just Henry Cavill. That must just be Henry Cavill. Why, if you're just gonna recast Henry Cavill, why did you do him so dirty?
I hear you.
Why do him so dirty, Saige?
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, but Henry Cavill's moved on to a lot of other projects. He's very passionate about Warhammer, so he's doing some stuff for Warhammer about 40K.
Listen, he was very passionate about Superman. Here's the problem, Saige. Here's the problem. Take a look at David Cornsweet.
I've been taking a look at David Cornsweet. Yeah,
take a look at David Cornsweet.
I see him. Yeah, okay, that's David Cornsweet.
So many problems. Are you not seeing these problems? First of all, look at his neck to shoulder ratio, Saige.
What is wrong with his?
Look at his head to neck to shoulder ratio. What? That's ridiculous. His shoulders should be at least 5 heads wide.
And how?
And his neck, so the circumference of his neck, you can't play Superman unless the circumference of your neck at least goes out to your ears at the base of the trunk.
The trunk?
We know this.
Okay.
We all know it.
Yeah, I see that you really love Henry Cavill. Absolutely. Now, what about some of the other castings they were considering? Were any of those like more amenable to you when they were talking about kind of like who else was coming in to audition for it?
I don't want you to think that I'm not open-minded, Saige. Of course I'm open-minded and I want what's best for the character, but Nicholas Hoult?
Whoa. Nicholas Hoult is
Renfield?
Nicholas Hoult is a great actor. You can agree.
Oh, absolutely. Great actor. Great actor. But what do we get? We're gonna get another Pattinson.
Oh, so
another eyeliner wearing, like just silly girly man.
Oh, okay.
Just a little theater boy. Listen, I'm sure he could play any number of characters, Saige. I'm sure. But Superman?
What level of attraction are you required to have for someone to play Superman?
What? No, it's just they need to look appropriate.
It sounds like you need, it sounds like you have a lot of like preferences on their physical appearance.
Of course, because he's Superman. He has to look the part. Saige, look at these ears.
What's wrong with his ears?
I'm sure he can fly with them, but
that's
not where Superman's flowers come from.
Okay, so I'm getting the idea that you didn't like Robert Pattinson's Batman, and you're not too keen on this casting. I hate that I'm going to ask this. What are you feeling on Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane?
Yeah, it's fine. She looks like a C cup.
Did you
I gotta go check my meter.
We'll be right back. Hey.
Did I miss him?
Yeah.
Did we learn anything new? Did we change any of our opinions?
That guy really wants to fuck Superman's neck or something.
Oh, that's a big part of the fandom, though.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Look at that guy's neck. You ever looked at Superman's neck?
He called it trunk, Anthony.
Who would do that?
Anyways, look, I'm very happy with the Superman casting. I'm excited to see what they can do with it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be moving on from the Snyderverse personally.
Same.
So curious to see what happens here.
There is something that I want to discuss though.
Yeah.
About this casting.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something that's been it's been a thing in Hollywood since the dawn of Superman.
Okay.
And that is the Superman curse. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
The Superman curse is the idea that anyone who plays Superman will have misfortune in either their personal or professional life. And I've always been fascinated by this as somebody who is such a fan of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
The idea here is if you play Superman, that's it. It's over for you in some way. And there's like a whole list of all of these horrible things that happen.
Which is already not true for Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill proving that to be incorrect.
But here's the question of the curse, Saige.
Mm-hmm.
He just stopped playing Superman. We don't know.
And right after he stopped playing Superman, we did get the announcement of The Witcher being recast, and we're uncertain of exactly what caused that, whether that was a fully choice departure or not.
Who knows? Who knows? Brandon Routh seems to be doing all right. But could he have done better?
Then who cursed me? I could be doing better.
The big reasons for the Superman curse were Kirk Allen, who was the first Superman in the 1940s serials. After he played Superman, couldn't get work as anybody else. He basically did like voiceovers and small commercials, didn't make a lot of money, wasn't very successful for the rest of his life.
Okay.
Then Lee Quigley, who played Superman, the baby Superman in the Christopher Reeve Superman, wound up dying at 14 due to inhalant abuse. George Reeves, who played Superman in the 1950s, there was the Ben Affleck movie where he played George Reeves, had a pretty rough life, and it's his death. His death was ruled a suicide, but there's a controversy. There's like a whole thing because he was having an affair, and there was substance abuse.
Theories.
And that's where the real after George Reeves is where the Superman curse became a thing. And then of course, Christopher Reeve, people are saying, after Christopher Reeve did Superman, he didn't really do much else. He was relegated to like side roles and things like that.
It's funny to see Reeves and then Reeve
Yeah.
side by side. I never thought about that.
Follow the money. It's the Superman curse. So, people talk a lot about this Superman curse, but there are a lot of people who played Superman that did not, like you said, befall misfortune. Brandon Routh is doing fine. Henry Cavill's doing fine.
So far.
Tom Welling, basically Tom Welling, after he played Superman, was like, I just don't want to be on camera for a while. Like, did not,
Which is also just understandable.
Yeah. Dean Cain did it to himself. Dean Cain's a horrible person who did it to himself. Get absolutely fucked, Dean Cain.
Wow, there's a lot of people in here. So here's what I didn't know. I knew about the ones who played Superman, but there's also a section on this Wikipedia here for other alleged victims. And this is separated by people who didn't specifically play Superman, but were involved in Superman projects that they also feel like were potentially, or at least are conspiratorially connected to the idea of the curse. Margot Kidder, Richard Pryor, Dana Reeve.
I mean, Richard Pryor did fine after Superman 3.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these are not actually about not getting work. A lot of these are also about people who a lot of them died.
Right. Richard Pryor. Well, I mean, listen, these Superman projects are so old that these people, yes, of course. Like Richard Pryor died of MS. Like he obviously had a long battle with MS.
When we're seeing a lot of these, it's that a lot of people died rather young. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Margot Kidder obviously had a rough life and had some substance abuse and stuff like that. Marlon Brando, famously a weirdie.
Yeah.
Famously weirdie. The ones that are obviously like, you can write to being a curse, but you can also, I call it the curse of capitalism. The first two is Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster, obviously the creators of Superman.
Yeah.
Who wound up making nothing for it. Nothing. The only reason, I mean, we can be honest, the only reason classic Marvel creators get checks now when movies are made is because Marvel got so big that people were saying, why aren't you paying these creators?
Yeah.
Why aren't they getting any money? So Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster, they didn't get much. Max and Dave Fleischer, who made the early Superman cartoons, which pushed animation forward, the entire medium.
Yeah.
They basically, like, their studio went under. They were having financial problems, so Paramount bought them. Paramount bought the studio, fired the Fleischer brothers. Max died in like an industry charity hospital, and Dave wound up, poor for the rest of his life.
Woof.
Yeah, and then obviously Smallville kind of had a sex cult.
Famously.
Kind of had a bit of a sex cult.
I think that, can I be honest with you? I think there is a future where we discover that a lot more shows had sex cults than we were aware of.
Yeah, but this one had like a real bad sex cult.
Yeah.
Like,
I actually don't know a lot about the Smallville sex cult.
oh man.
I know little bits of it. Like I know that like the people I know that Allison Mack went to prison.
Yep. Chloe went to prison. Chloe Sullivan went to
Straight
jail.
up went to prison.
Because she was recruiting for the cult.
Wild.
Yeah. It was basically a Scientology style cult where there was this guy at the head of it who promised to make you a brilliant person, and also just wanted to have a bit of sex harem.
Woof.
Woof.
Check out the documentaries on it. It wasn't specifically Smallville, I'm sure.
No.
It infected Smallville.
No, I knew one of the reporters that broke the story because one of the things that happened, I think we mentioned this on the show before, is they put out like flyers. The cult put out flyers for like journalism workshops.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, if we can get like new journalists in on our side, we can get like good promotion for this guy. And like journalists were looking at it and they're like, what? How can you be saying that you're going to train me on journalism? What are your credentials? I'm a journalist, motherfucker.
I do want to watch this documentary though.
There's a documentary.
I love a documentary.
There's a long form podcast. There's a lot of good shit about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, here's the thing. I do not believe in the Superman curse. What do I believe in? I believe that when you play an extremely large role, when you play a huge character that is known throughout pop culture, there's very few people who do that more than once in their lives.
Yes.
And you can't just attach that to Superman.
Did you know that somebody tried to recruit me into a cult once?
That tracks.
Like truly?
Like real hard?
Yeah. A quick side tangent.
Yeah.
Used to go to a lot of goth clubs. There's a lot of odd ducks that hang out around there. But there happened to be, for a very short time, an infection in this community where a bunch of people had these matching tattoos. These very strange tattoos on their arms.
Yep.
And one was like a friend of mine. She was just like, in the community, whatever. And she started posting about it a lot.
Yeah.
And there was this guy who had long, down to his hips, white hair.
Yeah, that's
And he would stand across the goth club and
Nope.
stare at me.
Just like an SNK King of Fighters character.
Yeah.
Just
and they all
long white hair and black leather.
They all started sharing this, like, the new revolution, the new mindset, the change, the rebirth stuff on Instagram. And I was like, whoa, these are people I know. More people keep showing up with these tattoos.
Yeah.
The cult leader messaged me on Instagram. Modern cult recruiting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Started reaching out. Started saying he was watching my streams for a while.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So-
but here's the thing about LA.
Modern cult recruiting, everybody.
Here's the thing about LA. There's a brunch place that's a cult. You know what I mean? Like, there's literally a brunch place that's a cult.
Yeah, this one's like literally a cult.
Yeah. So, I think, but when you're talking about the Superman curse, I do not agree.
No.
We don't talk about like a James Bond curse.
No, we
Like,
just talk
you
about
play-
the Glee curse. One day we could get into the Glee curse.
We will get into the Glee curse one day, but like, you don't play huge things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
If you make 5 Spider-Man movies and you make $20 million a movie and you don't work very much afterwards.
You don't have to, but it is hard to get out of a typecasting.
Yeah, but
People
it's like
know you as this one thing.
everything you do is going to be smaller than billion-dollar movies.
Yep.
So when you say like, oh, Christopher Reeve played Superman, but then he was just in like a bunch of movies in smaller roles. It's like, okay, Superman's probably like the biggest role. You know, it's only in very modern times with like a few actors that we think of like, oh, and it has a lot to do with the Marvel Factory, right?
Yeah.
With the Marvel Factory saying like, well, now we want big actors to play superheroes because they're already big actors.
Yes, when previously they were doing, Discovery, they were doing these like new actors that weren't yet big that they could make just this character.
Yeah. So, when you hire somebody who's already a $20 million Hollywood actor and they play the character a few times, it's easy to say there's no curse there. When you pick a guy who was like a theater actor and a swimmer in college and you go, you're Superman, like, of course.
Yeah.
Like, of course. And you roll the dice when you take a huge role like this, right? You say, this is going to jumpstart my career, or this is the biggest thing that I'll ever do. And that's okay. Yeah. That's okay.
And that's totally all right. We'd love to know what you think, of course, of the Superman casting. What do you think? Is Superman canonically Jewish now? Can Lois convert?
Yes,
let us know what you think. It's like a year. It takes like a year once you start.
They turn you away 3 times.
Yeah.
Lois Lane doesn't get turned away from anything, though, so I believe she'd go through with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Anyways, let us know what you think. Also, we're going to be doing segments where we do specifically take stories from the Discord. We'll be doing that on Friday, so if you have stuff you want to see us talk about, you can always post it in the Discord as well as your thoughts. Maybe we'll review some of your thoughts and opinions on today's stories. Let us know also what you thought of Barry.
I didn't get to meet him.
I'll catch you up. You can watch the VOD.
I'm sure he was fine. Hey,
let us know what you thought in the Discord.
When you're not doing this, where are you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Not Saige. I stream on my channel Mondays and Wednesdays, I think, and Saturdays, I think. And you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Carboni, except for here on Twitch, where I'm at Anthony Carboni. Twitch, you cowards, it's mine. Give it back to me. You can also listen to my science comedy podcast, We Have Concerns, at wehaveconcerns.com.
And hey, thank you for being here. Hey. We do this show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to make a little announcement I wasn't sanctioned to make. On Friday this week, there is still no failed save because we still have some cast members that are out traveling. But we are doing a little game night, and we're finally going to be doing our fiasco game night that was postponed a few weeks back. So we're all going to be hanging out and playing some games anyway, so we hope that we will see you there. You can do things to support this show, like donating during the show, and we're going to go through and we're going to thank everybody who did those kind of things because it's very cool and nice of you. Roll to burn Barry.
Roll to burn Barry, got a nat 1. Barry can't die.
Well, either that or that was Barry's con save.
No.
All right,
Rachel
bummer.
Rolled the dice.
Damn. Okay. Anyways, you can do things like donate, which goes directly to us that you see on screen and helping us eat and live and survive. You can do things like subscribe to the channel, support us on Patreon, those kind of things, keep the network and the studio running as a whole so we can keep doing it. And it's all very cool and appreciated of you. Over on Patreon, you get a bonus clip from this show every week that there's a Friday show.
Yeah.
So you get this one, you'll get one this week.
Yeah.
There's stuff.